We're live.
Hi. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be discussing The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. We have very nice covers here. We big fans of have to mention it every time. Yeah. So my guest host today is Rue, wrong way. So if you just want to introduce yourself, Rue.
Okay, I'm Rue from Rue's Reading Corner. I read a lot of fantasy, like Katie. That's about it.
Yes, I'll leave Rue's channel in the description. I'm just trying to get the link to Twitter up. But it'll be after the video, after the stream, because I haven't done it already, because I didn't realise you could leave descriptions.
Oh yeah, I didn't know
that by now.
we do lives every month for our book.
I'm a bit useless with technology. I don't even know how to get a link to put on Twitter.
I just the link on top. The link on top. The streamer.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
View on YouTube. Okay, there we go. Okay. Yeah, so I have a question for you, Rue, and that is so people can get a sense of your kind of reading tastes. So what have been your favorite 3 books that you've read this year?
Well, first, I want to say Peter Shelley Clark's novellas.
Yes.
I love them so much, and I'm so excited for A Master of Jinn. I feel like those are completely my kind of books, because it's 2 things I love in fantasy are histories and mysteries. History. I love historical.
That's a good.
I love historical settings and books that take from history. Which is again one thing I really love about.
Yeah. I was just doing a little bit of research actually before the live show of what exactly the history that inspired the book was.
Yeah. So I also just love a good mystery subplot. So that book is just perfect, and I can't wait for a full-length novel.
Yeah, and I feel like A Master of Jinn might be one of our future picks. Wink.
Oh yeah, I think it is. I think it's what else? The Shadowed Sun by N.K. Jemisin.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's my favorite N.K. Jemisin so far, and I've read a lot this year.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. I think this is kind of off topic from The Unbroken, but probably my favorite 3 N.K. Jemisin books are The Shadowed Sun, The Broken Kingdoms, and City We Became.
Okay, I need to read The Broken Kingdom soon. I guess book 3. Ooh. I'm gonna say If We Were Villains, just to spice things up.
I'm so torn on whether I want to read it.
I feel like the only reason I've loved it so much is because I'm the biggest drama.
Yeah, nerd. I feel like I would enjoy that because I do like drama. I think sometimes I get it confused with The Secret History, which I don't think.
I feel like I've read both, and I like this one better because The Secret History is literally just pretension. It's built on all the characters being pretentious, but I feel like there are a few pretentious characters in If You Were Villains, but the main characters are still pretty. The character we're following is pretty down to earth, and he doesn't understand what's going on half the time. We love
a himbo. Yeah. Be excited.
So hard.
Yeah, okay, so we should probably get on to our thoughts on The Unbroken. So we'll start with some spoiler-free thoughts. So I could go first.
Sure.
So I gave this book, the first time I read it, I gave it 4 stars. And the second time I read it, I think I actually liked it a lot more on reread. I mean, I liked it the first time, but I feel like I appreciated it so much more. Just I think I sort of knew what I was expecting in a way, so I could appreciate exactly what the author had done and the kind of masterful world she crafted, and it's very nuanced, and I think she explores colonialism so well. And I think because the first time the romance, if you can call it a romance, I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I think this time because I knew that, it didn't bother me as much. Although I do like both Luca. Well, I don't know how much I like Luca, but I really she's a very well written character, and I really like her. So Sarah Polia's characters, they're really great. But yeah, I'm just still not sure about them together. But yeah, and I don't know what else. I really like the writing. I thought it creates the sort of atmosphere of the world very well. Yeah, that's about all I have to say for now.
For me, I feel like for most of the book it was a 4.5, but I feel like the ending disappointed me a little, so I dropped like.
Oh, that's interesting because I think I like the ending. Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I just really loved it. I feel like I was like, from what you and Tammy told me, I felt like I was going into a really dense, heavy fantasy. But I think it's because I'm reading this with Elantris and the fourth Eye of the World book. I feel like this has almost become like fluffy in comparison. But I just really loved it.
Never thought you'd hear.
Right. I mean, obviously on its own right, this is like dealing with a lot of dark things, and
yeah.
But yeah, I really loved it. I love the characters. I love terrain. And I just loved the conversations this book has, and it does it so almost in like a matter of fact way. The way it talks about colonization, and you know, like it talks about things that are hard to talk about. Like you obviously don't want to talk about a turncoat soldier, which is basically what terrain is at the start, and she doesn't realize that. And slowly her journey realizing that is just, I love it. It's done so beautifully.
Yeah, I think Torrain's arc is so like good, and also I think how she like views the other characters, like especially General Kantic. I think you really see like at the start she sort of idolizes her, but then throughout the book you sort of see her like changing her opinion, and she becomes more of a villain. And then I think that's because Terrain's kind of seeing the light.
Not trying to compare this to another book, but it kind of reminds me of, you know, like the casual way in A Memory Called Empire, the casual way the main character thinks that she's lesser than the colonizers because that's what she's been taught for her entire life. I feel like that kind of, you feel it, like that's just a thing that happens in this kind of book.
And with the sands as well, like
exactly.
I didn't really give a synopsis, but I sort of assume if you're watching this you've read it. But we're basically following Looker and Terrain, who are two characters. Terrain is a soldier and Looker is a princess, and Terrain is basically how do we describe what she's doing? She's sort of
Terrain was basically kind of sold into, or like kind of just given to the colonizers' army.
Is it the Baladarian
army?
I don't know how I say it.
I have no clue. But like since she was young, so that's all she's known. She's grown up in Belladere. And this is the first time she's coming back home, and she just doesn't recognize it. She's never lived there, so it's that kind of conflict within her. But also it's the conflict between the turncoat soldiers that are called Sands, the rebellion, and also the Belladarians, who are the colonizers, basically. So it's she's stuck between all three because and it's so interesting because she doesn't know where she belongs, because she thought she was a Sand for so long, and that's taken away from her.
Yeah, that was like her identity. And then,
but I guess we'll discuss that more when we're talking about spoilers.
Yeah, we've probably got, as is usual for my channel, got into spoilers. So did we have any more non-spoilery thoughts?
I can't think of anything.
No. What did you think of the romance?
Oh, I hated it.
I
hated it.
Yeah.
Made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's like the paragon of a healthy relationship. I guess it was kind of interesting.
It definitely
like power dynamic.
Yeah, I feel like Luca's character is just such interesting social commentary, but that doesn't mean I don't hate her. Like I hate her.
Yeah.
But she's just so well written, like you said. I think it's important to point that out.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so we can probably get into spoilers now. So if you haven't read it, bye-bye. Or stay at your own risk, as I would probably do. So what do we want to talk about with the spoilers?
You said you had questions, like my favorite scene and stuff. What do you want to
okay. So that could be our first question. So
scene.
What was your favorite scene?
Okay, so my favorite thing about this book, like obviously it's a smaller subplot, but I love Tyrion's relationship with her mother.
It's so interesting.
And
Yeah.
right at the end, I think my favorite scene is right at the end when she shows her the stone that
Yeah.
that was my heart. She's like, this is the first time my mom said I loved her. She loved me, and I was just like,
Yeah.
stop it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I always love like complex mother-daughter. And I actually really just before we go on, that's hard because I feel like there are a couple of
I feel like
I wouldn't say they're like dramatic plot twists, but they're like sort of a bit plot twisty.
Yeah, I feel like she doesn't use a lot of plot twists. I feel like what's going to happen kind of happens, and I don't know, like information isn't really withheld from the reader. So like if Terry knows something is going to happen, we know it's going to happen, if that makes sense. I'm talking about like the main plot twist halfway through, with the guns. That part.
There is. I think there's one thing that happens like towards the end. It's quite short, and we can talk about it in a bit. Oh, sorry. That I thought was very shocking, but then it kind of turned out not to be true. So I don't know if you would count that.
What was it?
So it's when like I thought I read it as Terrain was shot like in the head, but then because like that scene happens and then we sort of cut away, but then it turns out that Luca comes like running and stops it all.
Oh yeah, I feel
like the first time I read it, I thought she'd been killed, and I thought, whoa, this is very shocking.
Tyrion kind of reminds me of that main character. I keep comparing this to other books. I don't know why, but Tyrion keeps reminding me of the main character in An Unkindness of Ghosts, just walking with the axe in her back. Like, I think she gets hurt so much, and she's just like fine. And a lot of it, I guess, is like she gets healed, but like I feel like she gets close to death so many times. Like even the scene where I thought Prue killed her. Is her name Pruitt, not Prue.
Yeah, Pruitt.
Because when Pruitt finds her, so let's talk. We'll talk about Pruitt too. But I really think that right after her two friends die, I'm blanking on their names, and she's like, "This is for him." Chavotai. Taboo. No. Yeah, Taboo. I think. Yeah. Who's Chavotai then? Okay, I don't know, but
that's her mother.
That's her mother. Yeah. Yeah, so I thought when she says this is for Thibaut and she stabs him or so, I thought she was dead.
Oh yeah. I always feel like the main characters like nearly die so many times. Yeah.
What was your favorite scene?
I don't know. I also really like the scene that you mentioned where it's like her mother tells her is like but I also really like Arinen and is it Jasha? They're like all the couple. I like any scene they have together. I always love like old wives. They're so cute.
Yeah. I also love any scene where like the scene where Luca's teaching Terrain how to play chess. Like any scene where Luca Terrain's just calling Luca out. Because I feel like she says a lot of things that Luca just has no clue because she's never had to think about these things. A thing that that's the thing I don't like about Luca is that she doesn't seem to show much, remorse about the things she's doing. Like I remember there was this one scene, and I think I texted Tammy about it. I was so mad, but like there was this one scene where she's like killing a bunch of Sands. You remember she's killing Amy and like all this, and then Terrain shows up and Luca's like, "Oh no, Terrain saw." Like, she's not.
So that's
doing.
That's what she's. Yeah.
Like, where are your priorities?
Oh, yeah. She's definitely very sort of, I guess, influenced by her culture and the kind of colonizer mindset.
Yeah, which is an interesting perspective to follow for sure. Which is why I was like really concerned because this book is so heavily marketed as a romance.
I know.
I'm just like,
I know. Yeah. I think that definitely helped the second time, like knowing that it wasn't really.
I think I knew that the romance wasn't healthy because I watched Tammy's review on it. I think that helped me as well.
Yeah, but I do think it's a fascinating sort of relationship to follow because
100%.
it's kind of like the manipulation and like the power dynamics and
because like there's so many instances where Luca kind of signals Terrain out. She's like, I'll free you. Like all your charges will be dropped. When every time says, what about my sands? And she's like, I can't do that. You know what I mean? That's such an interesting thing as well.
Yeah, Luca's very much kind of in it for like herself, and she's very like laser focused.
Exactly. It almost feels like despite herself, she likes Terrain, so she's trying to do the best she can, like to keep Terrain. You know?
Or like convincing herself, like what you were saying, by singling Terrain out. She's convincing herself she's doing something good.
Exactly.
But really not helping anything. It's just kind of helping Terrain. And it's not even helping Terrain that much.
The fact of the matter is that she's completely out of her league. Like, one thing I really liked was her relationship with her old guard.
Yeah, is it Gil?
Gil or Jill? Yeah. I feel like he's almost her conscience. And he's her kind of like, because she basically grew up with him. Like there's this one scene where she's like, he says something like, what happens when you get, like, doesn't it matter what you do to get to the crown? Like, because all Luca wants is to take the crown from her uncle. And I feel like Luca gets defensive when she knows she doesn't know, like she's doing, she's not doing the right thing. So then she just like, that poor Jill has to like deal with all that all the time. But I know, I thought that was interesting as well.
MVP.
What?
I was just saying MVP.
Yeah.
Although he's not really, but just kind of.
Yeah. I feel like that was his only job in the book was
I do tend to like those characters though, that kind of act as a bit of like a conscience.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Have you read The Bone Shard Daughter?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Oh no. There's a character called Mephi in that who's
Is that the weasel?
Yeah. The like otter thing. And he sort of acts as like one of the characters' like consciences.
Interesting.
Which is very cute.
I do like that dynamic.
Yeah.
I also like two people with no consciences just like burning the world. That is also nice.
Yeah. And they like egg each other on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I guess that's an interesting point. Do we think, like, how do we think, I don't know how to phrase this question. Like, with Luca and Terrain's relationship, how do we think if the relationship had been different, how that would have, like, changed the books? Like, do we think they sort of almost egged each other on a bit? Or, because I don't know, if they didn't have a relationship, then almost the book wouldn't really work.
I feel like some relationships are just doomed from the start just because of their nature. But I also feel like the way the book ended with Luca leaving and them getting their back, I feel like a part of me understands that that's, I guess, if the relationship is endgame, that's the move that the author had to make, like to make them like to kind of remove the almost power difference between them, because she basically she didn't even buy Terrain. She just like saved her life, so like she's indebted to her in that way at least. And you know, like remember the first scene where Terrain is like, she's kind of like tells herself she has to do anything that, you know, like even if it's sexual, anything that Luca wants her to do. So, like, that I think is what makes this relationship so uncomfortable for me, just because like obviously Luca doesn't make use of that, but like just the fact that Terrain can't say no to Luca just makes me really uncomfortable.
I think
but I do think that now that they're not colonized anymore, I feel like if I don't know if the author is trying to make the relationship endgame. I don't know. Like, I hope not. But if it is, I understand like the direction the story is taking. I understand that that's the only way they can be together if they're at a equal standing.
I think I'd be interested to see like where book 2 goes. I assume we'll be learning more about the magic.
That's my one thing that I feel like if the magic was a little better explained, this book could have easily been a 5-star.
I just think that. Oh, sorry. I was. You go.
No, you go. It's fine.
I was gonna say just with the magic, I thought it's kind of this book we're sort of discovering the magic.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's interesting actually because the title of the like series title is Magic. Is it Magic of the Lost? Yeah, Magic of the Lost. So I think that's kind of interesting. I do tend to quite like it when books are sort of almost discovering the magic.
I do like that. I did like that one of the subplots was Luca trying to get their magic, but their magic is very ingrained in their religion, and the fact that she's not a believer means that she can't use the magic. I really like that, and I also think that that's why the main character, well, not a main character, the older couple, the priest.
Yeah, priestess. Yeah.
But I also feel like I'd love to know, like my one pet peeve is like when magic doesn't have bounds, like which is why I felt like the ending was a little but also like a little ambiguous and like a little underwhelming almost.
And I guess it's kind of convenient because when you don't have like strict laws of the magic, then you can just use the magic to solve anything.
Like the fact that kind of untapped potential. I feel like they mentioned this with the kind of the background with Kantik and then Jasha. Like obviously they have that enmity because she killed her soldiers all that time ago, I think. But so you know that the magic has these huge destructive properties, but it's never used. Like it's only used for like healing and like these small things. And the fact that suddenly not only Terrain had magic, but also
everyone has magic.
Yeah, but also she finally like what's the wife's name?
Is it Jasha?
Jasha's
the wife. Aranen?
Aranen, like suddenly Aranen, like her wife has been dead for like a while, and now she's like, and I guess Terrain's imminent death kind of just caused her to kind of let go of her magic, and then that so that I felt like that was a little convenient, but also I felt like I wished, like again, the bounds were explored a little more, like just what this magic can do, especially just one person's magic. Is that enough to like send a whole country running?
I thought it was quite satisfying though when like Aranen kills Kantik and was like,
it's
like I love the kind of the kind of magic where like someone puts their hand on someone and then it like all
it just sucks their life energy out. Why are we laughing about this?
I don't know.
One thing I did really like, again, going off with just this book exploring human nature in a way, is that there are different levels of people being evil, people being bad people. Like there's obviously just evil people, like Terrain's officer. Rogan?
Yeah.
That guy. And then the father who gets the father. I forgot. I'm so bad with names. The one who gets arrested at the end. You know, like the governor general, the one with the two kids.
Bo somebody.
Yeah, that one. So like they arrest him at the end because he's the one who kind of orchestrated the hostage situation and stuff. And those people are just like full on evil, like no questions. Like there's no humanity in them. And so that's almost, those characters are almost expected. Like what they're going to do. Like they don't have any chance for redemption almost. But there's characters like Kantik and Luca who are just like explored a lot more. They have. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
I feel like they're explored a lot more, and they have these different sides to them, right?
Yeah, they're very morally gray.
Yeah, exactly. So I like how that's explored as well. Even the rebels to a certain extent, because I like how no one is cut and dry, no one is good and bad. Like in a situation where one, like there's a colonized party and there are colonizers, it should be good and bad, right? I just love how each character is given these qualities. Especially again, like if you compare the rebels to the Sands, I just feel like it's really interesting. Like
I think it's interesting because it's like overall it's like good and bad, like the Baladarians.
Exactly.
But individual people I think are more complex than just this massive like plethora. Yeah.
Because the author is trying to make you feel sorry for Luca at least.
I'm not sure I really felt sorry for her.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to feel sorry for some. Okay, one of my other favorite scenes.
Yeah.
I feel like in the book is the scene where right after her guard gets bitten by the alligator, and Terrain is like, you don't know how it feels like to lose your leg, and Luca has a limp, and she's like, tell me about it. And then Terrain is like, no, but you have everything else, so you don't know how it feels like. You don't know how it feels like when you're a soldier and you lose your leg. You don't know how you feel like even you have nothing else, and then you lose your leg. Like, I just love that conversation because Luca, that emphasis on her limp is just like, oh, it ruins everything. It reminds me. No one takes me seriously because of my limb. Like she always like.
It's kind of like levels of privilege in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that scene was just brilliantly done.
Yeah, because I guess she's kind of in a situation where, although she has this disability and it does affect her, and I think the author did quite a good job. I mean, obviously, I'm not disabled, so I can't really
exactly
good or not. But I think Luca was her character was very much more than just her disability, but also that disability didn't sort of make her like lose everything, whereas someone in a different situation, like what Terrain was saying, then it could. Because it could mean you like lose your livelihood, you lose your ability to work, and you just kind of
Especially if you're a sand, like that's all you've been trained for your entire life. Like I don't think Terrain I feel like Terrain doesn't feel like she's good for anything else. I think she said at a point where like she doesn't know how to like string words together to make people do what she wants. Her only weapon is her body.
And I think that's interesting, like her growth throughout the book, because she's very much a follower, and like that's how she's sort of raised and taught. But she does sort of grow a bit of her own, like I guess she starts to believe in herself a little bit more.
Yeah. It's so sad because like towards the middle of the book, she really has nowhere to go because like no place. Like after she sells Luca and the rebellion out, I feel like she goes back to the rebellion and they don't want her. She goes back to Pruitt. Pruitt doesn't want her. So it's just like, oh my god, what's going on? But it's just
like an emergency.
Oh, but there's always ambulances and cars. It's fine. What was I saying? Yeah, so it's really interesting to see that because right at the start, like you said, her growth throughout the book. Because right at the start, she is so set in her ways. Like in the first scene where she kind of kills those three rebels. And one of them ends up being her uncle.
Yeah. So and he like recognizes her.
Like, exactly. And she's more worried. She doesn't care that she's killing off these rebels. She's more worried that someone will take out her rank or like take it out of her if she knows these rebels. Like
you sort of see how like brainwashed she's been.
Exactly. So just the amount she grows, and I think grows because she realizes that none of these groups are really going to take her as she is. She'll have to change for everyone. And at the end, it's like her deciding the kind of person she wants to be, and like that's the kind of person with the rebels. I just really like that exploration because obviously she sold out the rebellion and the that bargain because of the Sands, because they were the ones who like the guns were going to be used on.
That's and especially at the start of the book, that's very much her like driving force. Like everything she's doing to try and help the Sands.
The Sands, exactly. I don't think that changes. Obviously, but like she does acknowledge that they're not her family, or like they're her family, but that's not her home anymore. It's changed too much. I'm interested to see Pruitt and Tyrion's relationship.
That was gonna be my next point. What do we think of their relationship?
I feel like it wasn't explored enough for me to like really have a say in it, but I do think the second book is going to be. It is interesting that they ruled out any like future hope of romance or anything. Like at the end, they were like they tried. It's not happening.
The epilogue.
So I almost felt that. Because Pruitt, like she was with Pruitt before she met Luca, right? So she basically left Pruitt for Luca, and obviously Luca Obviously, Pruitt didn't forgive her for that. I mean,
no, which I don't blame her.
Completely understandable. But I also think that Pruitt is such an interesting character because she's still a Sand, and you really don't know where her loyalties lie, but she just wanted Terrain to be loyal to her.
Yeah.
And at the end, like, so when she can, all the Sands kind of switch right at the end, and she joins the rebellion. I don't know. Part of me was like, I don't know where her character is gonna go. I don't know if if there's a war, I don't know if she's gonna stay with the rebellion, or if she's, or I mean, I don't know if she's gonna stay with the Republic, or if she's going to go into the rebellion. So her character was like, I wish it was explored a little more.
Yeah, I do. I think like I like the side characters, but I would have liked maybe some like more exposition of them. But also I feel like because it's not like a super long book, you can't like do too much.
There are a lot of characters, I feel like.
Yeah.
There's the rebels, there's everyone Luca's talking to. Also, like the what's the guy's name? Bastian?
Yeah.
The guy, like, again, I don't know what exactly he does in the book, but I feel like he shows up every time Luca needs help. And from like the ending, I feel like maybe they might have a relationship.
Yeah, maybe because I think Luca's bisexual, so
yeah, I remember. But like, I don't know. I felt like she was hinting at that.
Yeah,
I think it is Bastian.
Yeah. Yeah, I always think it's funny characters that always just seem to appear like every time
when she needs.
Yeah. So what did we think of General Cantic? Because I think she's a very interesting character.
For sure, especially right at the start when Terrain just wants to be General Cantic, because General Cantic basically raised her. But also I think it's interesting, the scene right at the end when Cantic is almost like she can't believe that Terrain switched sides. Like she can't believe that someone she raised would like, you know, she's Baladarian, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's Baladarian, which is another just interesting thing in itself. But also, because how do I put this into words? But like, if you train someone, like obviously she was brainwashed, so you brainwash someone, you don't like take into account any. You treat them like a weapon. You don't take into account any of the feelings they might have. You know what I mean? Like, you just, the fact that she just can't like come to terms with the fact that Terrain would even consider switching sides is really interesting, just because it just shows how much they brainwashed her as a kid.
And I think it's interesting, like the comparison in like relationships throughout the book between Terrain and Cantic and Terrain and her mother. I think that's
it's also interesting to me, Cantic and Luca's relationship, because I feel like Cantic doesn't agree with a lot of things Luca does. And there was that one scene where she orders Cantic to stop, and she's like, "No offense, but you're not my queen, so I'm not going to stop."
They're all kind of vying for power.
Exactly. So like Cantic is like the lesser of two evils almost in this book. I think that's interesting for sure. But I feel like a lot of that is because she has a relationship with the main character. She has a relationship with a lot of the Sands. Just because, so that's the thing. Just because there are some people who treat them like actual shit under their boots, and there are people who treat them like, just because so many people treat them that horribly, the few people that show them even a little bit of kindness, they hero worship.
And I think that's like something that people can use to like manipulate.
Exactly.
Because in a way, it's more insidious. Like if you show kindness, and you can get them to do what you want, rather than just being like.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Cantic just falls into that category. She's like, especially like again towards that ending scene, she's like, "I gave you, like I raised you," and you know, that kind of stuff. Like she's Terrain's mother, but she's like, "This is how you repay me for treating you like a human being." Like, do you know what I mean? So that was interesting.
Yeah, I guess, and then some other questions were like your favorite and least favorite character. But I feel like we already sort of have talked about characters quite a bit.
Are there any characters we didn't talk about?
I feel like we have talked about a lot of them.
Yeah.
Taboo, I guess. Did we talk about him much?
Taboo, and then the other guard who was like with him, the one who died like right at the start.
Let me see if it's in my notes. I wrote down some notes.
Yeah, but I also think Taboo was interesting.
Completely illegible.
at least you wrote down notes. I'm just freestyling.
I don't think I even.
Yeah, but it's interesting to me that Thibaut was the one who.
Is it like Emmeline? Is that?
I think so.
Yeah.
There's the small interactions with the Sands because Thibaut was the one who like was hinting that he might join the rebellion, and Tyrion was like, "Don't you dare." So it's like really interesting. And then when she actually is helping the rebellion, and just before he dies, she was like, "Okay, cool. This is what we're doing. Let's just like casual for him."
Yeah.
Which just means that he would have done it ages ago if.
Yeah.
If they wouldn't kill him for desertion. But it's just like these small interactions with the Sands, like Amy coming to Tyrion for help, or like let me join you, and then Tyrion saying no, and the next scene Amy being hung. Yeah, I felt like that was such a sad scene as well, because like it's almost obviously Tyrion's gonna blame herself because even though she was doing it to help Amy, I feel like it's just so sad.
Yeah. It's definitely quite like I wouldn't call it grimdark, but it's definitely kind of, I don't know if sorrowful is the right word, but sort of like a darker tone to it.
Yeah. I feel like it's very realistic in a sense because just execution of deserters, execution of rebels is such a big thing. Like just as a power play to show that that's why Luca does it as well. Because like a part of it, I get it.
Prove her power.
Exactly. So that's like the textbook thing that people do, which is why I feel like there's so many deaths in this book. And I just called it fluffy.
I think I sort of know what you meant there, because I don't think fluffy is in terms of content, but I think the writing is very sort of easy to read.
Exactly.
Like in a good way. Like I think it's very well written. But it's just easy to like flow through. Exactly. Whereas sometimes books can be a bit dense.
Especially when they're written like 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a good book that sort of where you hope like the future of fantasy is going.
Exactly.
I feel like there's quite a few books which aren't really like the same, but I'd almost class them in like similar categories that are coming out this year as well, like The Jasmine Throne and She and books
have you read The Jasmine Throne?
I've read it, yeah.
Of course you have.
Which is really good. That also deals with sort of like morally grey characters and like kind of colonization, but not quite in the same way.
Yeah.
I feel like
no, go ahead.
This one very much sort of almost like in a way without the magic, you could see it kind of happening in our world. I guess it is inspired by history. Exactly. I think I read it's inspired by like the French occupation of Algeria or something. Kind of. But
did you listen to the audiobook or did you physically read it?
No, I physically read it.
The audiobook, like the narrator has like these really, really heavy French accents. And like every time Luca speaks, let me just decrease the speed.
Yeah, I don't think I realized like the first time that it's kind of French inspired, but then when you think about it, all the names, especially like Baldarian names, they are very French sounding.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned once in a video that like I think the French had done something problematic. So I said, because we don't like the French. And then someone commented, like, why don't you like the French?
There's always someone.
Yeah, always someone. Yeah, so I guess the next thing we can talk about is what we think the strongest element of the book was and what we think the weakest. I think, first of all, out of the way for me, well, I don't know if it's really the weakest, but I guess the fact that it's kind of marketed as a romance and the romance is not really there. But like I said, I don't think it bothered me like on reread because I sort of knew that that wasn't what I was getting. I think you could appreciate like it's a very interesting relationship to look at without like shipping it. But yeah, and I don't know the strongest element. I guess just the kind of exploration of like how these different, how like the empire impacts the kind of culture of like, is it Kazel? I'm not quite sure how you say the city.
Oh, no clue.
Yeah.
Did I even read the book? Who knows?
Yeah. Kazal, maybe. I also, yeah, Kazal, I think. I also, when I was rereading my review that I wrote like the first time, and I'd written like, because this time I was reading the finished copy, so obviously it has like an accent over the A. But in my art copy, it was like Kaza and then a dash and then an L, and I thought that was the name of the city. So all through the review, I've written like Kaza dash L. I just thought it was so funny.
I started reading your review and it's so long, Katie. It's so detailed.
I always feel like there's pressure to write arc reviews and make them long, and spend like over an hour.
I think you do them really well.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you should feel pressured because, like, there's that 250 word, 100 and something.
Yeah. One time I tried to leave a review, like leave a NetGalley review. The book would have been better if it was JS, and then it wouldn't let me because it was too short.
I remember. I just like try to hit word limit, and then if I have anything else to say, I just write it, and I'm just like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I do definitely try and put more effort into like really anticipated releases, and then other ones sometimes I just sort of write a paragraph or two.
Yeah.
But so
I also just
you can go.
I would say I guess the romance is a weak point as well. Even though I feel like it did what it came to do, like as commentary, I think it's interesting. But like if you just look at how it starts and like how the romance starts so abruptly. You know what I mean? Like it starts like almost 1/3 of the way into the book. Like they've just basically met. All Terrain's done is like save her from that assassination attempt and then asks her for the favor to save her, basically. That's it, right? And I think they use each other as like crutches a lot. Luca finds someone to talk to who she can just like who doesn't expect anything. Obviously Terrain does expect things from her, but like, do you know what I mean? Like someone so completely removed from her life that she can talk to, and Terrain just like is so grateful that she's not dead, and she feels that kind of betrayal because everything, like she was working so hard and she gave her entire life to the Sands, and they just threw her away for like basically nothing. And she, even like during the trial, she was expecting Cantic to take her side. You know what I mean? Like she has so much faith in them at the start, and I think whether Luca wanted to or not, she took kind of advantage of almost Terrain's kind of loss of like her self. Like, what do I do now? This was everything I ever wanted. I thought I ever wanted.
And I think because she's been so brought up in this like follower mindset, she always just kind of like will follow whoever's like giving her. She just kind of latches on to Luca.
Which is why she's so how to say it? The word's not coming to me, but she's so defensive of Luca. Like every time her mother or just anyone is like, Luca's doing her best, okay? Like, do you know what I mean? Like so almost grateful to Luca that she can't see what she's like for a long time. She can't see what Luca's doing wrong. Like even when she betrays Luca and tells Cantic about the guns, she's not doing it because she dislikes Luca. She almost hopes that Luca will take her back, and like that kind of thing. She doesn't like realize, or like, I feel like the last few times when she meets Luca, that's when she realizes A, Luca's position, and B, just the kind of person Luca is. Like those tinted glasses are off. I feel like he finally sees, like, it's the part where she's sick with the plague, with the laughing plague or whatever. And Luca takes care of her, and I feel like I don't remember what they fight about, but she leaves. I think that's such a interesting part where she leaves Luca and goes back to the rebels, even though she's sick. I think that's just where the relationship kind of just like becomes real, and it's not one person gaslighting the other, or one person, like having really high expectations or like really high hopes from the other. Because I feel like there's definitely a part in the relationship where Terrain thinks that by befriending Luca, she can help all the Sands.
Yeah. And that's almost like her motivation initially for getting into it.
And slowly she realizes that Luca is willing to give her preferential treatment, but not the other Sands. And I think that's just something that kind of affects that relationship as well at the end. So yeah, I feel like just everything aside of how problematic, if you just take away how problematic it is, who the two characters are, if you just look at the romance in itself, I don't think it's a good relationship.
No.
It's like it started too fast, felt kind of insta-lusty for sure, but like also just they started relying on each other so quick. I just felt like that itself was a little too done too fast. But also I feel like in a fantasy world where there's everything's changing, and like you don't know what is going to happen in the next chapter, I feel like that's understandable. But still, I feel like that would be the strongest part, I guess, obviously, is the historical setting, just the talks of colonization, talks of just the exploration that the author does. I think she does it so brilliantly.
And even though we only really have like 2 POVs, I think she explores like the different sort of like levels of character. Like you can see, because obviously you get like Terrain as a soldier, then I think you also get a bit of a sense of like just the citizens and like how it affects them. And then obviously there's the people on the other side and the rebels, and so you get quite a broad range of like perspectives.
Yeah, I also wish that we explored the world a little more, because we explored like the confines of
it's
their
very
but like the one time she goes out and she's like, oh, this whole city dried up and left. And then they talk about farmers or something at a point, I don't remember. But it would be interesting to see the world outside, because I know Terrain, when she was leaving, she talked about joining a caravan. So I thought maybe we'd explore more of this world there. But I also had a feeling she wasn't actually going to leave. But yeah, that would have been.
I think a lot of, I don't know, in my experience, trilogies, often the first book is very contained, and then in the next books they start like leaving and exploring.
But I also think the next book is going to be pretty contained as well, just because they can't really leave the place, because I really am interested to see where the second book goes, because that transfer of power is not going to be easy. There's going to be someone who's going to try and get control of them again. So I don't. But also just like all those resources are now gone, right? Like that's the tricky thing about colonizers, I guess, because they have control of finances. They have control of food, water, just basic necessities. And when they go, they take that with them. So that transfer of power, they have to do everything themselves now. Which is like, again, why am I comparing this book to so many other books? But like like the scene. Okay, actually, I feel like that would spoil the Burning God. Never mind. But I feel like it's really interesting to follow the aftermath of colonized country freeing themselves.
Like the kind of growing pains.
Exactly. I think that's what's going to be explored in book 2.
Yeah, I really like exploring that, the sort of aftermath of things. And I hope the author does that. I think she probably, or they probably will. Because like rather than just moving on to like another conflict. Well, I guess the aftermath in itself will probably bring up its own conflicts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what like Luca's part will be in the second book. If I'm guessing she still has a perspective. Because I feel like it just might be her and her uncle fighting for power, I guess.
Yeah. And see if she gets any like character development.
Yeah.
Or not development, like growth. I think it's development. Yeah.
I feel like definitely just when I feel like Luca's like she's definitely at a position where she's going to change now that she's seen the abundant magic that this country or their people have. If they choose to use it against them, they're all going to die. It's also just interesting to me, the talk of sickness at the end. I feel like it just came out of nowhere. But obviously they use terrain to get a lot of the soldiers sick because all this, not the sands, but like all the inhabitants, like the natives of the country, are all immune because they've had it as a child. But even all the Beladarians who leave in the first ship are all shot down because they might have the plague.
I think plague storylines, especially now, are always fascinating.
And also the fact that the plague comes in two parts. There's the laughing plague that just doesn't do anything, and then there's the more deadly plague. So that's interesting, I think.
Yeah, and I guess exploring almost a little bit of the like biological warfare.
Exactly. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like biological warfare is kind of very like scary. Exactly. And in a way it's almost worse than like guns and weapons, because it's just so like it'll get out of control very easily.
Because I feel like every time one side kind of saves someone from, and it's too easy, you know what I mean, like and then I'm just like, oh, they're probably gonna have some kind of disease or something. I don't know, you've seen The 100, right? They do that in the first season, the first season they do that with Murphy. Season, maybe, I don't know.
Remember that.
I rewatched the first season a while back, and I was like, this episode is so like everyone gets sick. I remember at the end.
Was that the one where they eat those nut things?
What?
Is that the episode in the first season? Don't they all eat these like nuts, and then it sends them all crazy?
No. This is. I remember they started quarantine and stuff because the Rounders kind of sent Murphy back with like. This is after they.
I think I do remember. Yeah.
That was like my favorite. I was like, oh my god, everyone's gonna feel, because the sickness, I remember, only lasted for like a day, but that was the day they were gonna attack them. So like everyone was gonna be sick.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh, what's gonna happen?
I went through a phase of like really liking The 100 a few years ago.
I mean, same, but then with every season I was just like, what is happening? Let me just rewatch the first season again. It's fine. I'll ignore everything else.
Yeah. Although I don't think I've watched the last couple of seasons. Same. I think I don't know when I finished watching it. I think when they like leave.
I think season 4, season 5. Season 5, I think.
Yeah. I
feel like they ran out of plot points and they were just like, it's fine. We'll just
Okay, do we have any more final thoughts?
Any predictions for book 2?
I don't know if I have any others that we haven't spoken about.
I do think that because they killed off so many new characters, we're going to be introduced to a lot more.
I would like to see some new characters, because I think I often like it when we meet like new characters in like sequels and stuff.
Do you think there's going to be a time jump?
I think there might be a little time jump, like maybe a year. I don't think there'll be like a really big time jump, like 5 years.
Yeah, because like the book could either just explore the direct aftermath, like right after, like what everything that's gone wrong and how they're trying to fix things, or in a year this is what they've accomplished, but it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, I think like a little bit of time would probably give time for things to like brew.
Yeah. Because you know that her uncle is planning something. I think the uncle might also play a bigger role because she's going back home.
Yeah. I think he'll almost become the like main villain.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting to see if there'll be a new love interest.
That's what I was thinking, because I was like, I just have a feeling Luca and Terrain aren't going to end up together.
No. Because I feel like in this book, it's almost their relationship is used to sort of move the plot along in a way.
Also, their relationship is just commentary on so many evils, I think. Yeah. And that's brilliantly done, like I said. But as a relationship, I don't think they're going to last, because their homes are different. They're, like, it's just it's one of those relationships, like a lot of fantasy does. These kind of relationships between these two kings from like different countries, and then at the end they can't be together because they have to rule their own countries, that kind of thing. But obviously YA usually finds a way around it. But I think realistically, unless you're willing to drop, it's like long distance relationships almost. Unless you're willing to drop everything for that character, especially if you're a king and you want to you have to rule your own kingdom. I'm just like, that's not gonna work. Especially if what's the place called? Especially if the place stays free, like unless they try to.
Is it Out West? Is that? I think that's the name of the like city.
Yeah. Where's the map?
Oh, I think that's different. How would we rate the map?
This is my first time looking at it, so.
Yeah, I always like.
But it's so funny because she has like little little annotations, more colonizers, creative bastards.
Oh yeah, I just saw that. Oh. I think that's because it's called the Middle Desert.
Yeah.
The Kiss City.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've. I would rate this map highly because it's got the funny little annotation.
Yeah, for sure.
I never really look at maps.
I feel like I only look at maps when characters are traveling, because that's when you realize when a map is just like there for aesthetics, because they'll be like, the next day they were at this town. I was like, that's halfway across the continent. What do you mean? Yeah. I like calling people out like by using the map.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of interesting to see.
Kazal, I think, right? Kazal?
Yeah, so that's the name of the like country.
Yeah.
And then Ala the city. Interesting. Yeah. I'm gonna go and study all the different maps now.
I feel like maps really come handy when it's like a quest fantasy traveling. But if it's like in one location, I don't think like the map is, unless you want to see, because in this case I want to see where Belladera is.
Yeah.
Like that, but
I think sometimes the books will have like two maps, one of like the world and then one of like the city. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. We got off on a bit of a tangent there.
We went on so many tangents. Just we went on the 100. We went on that.
Oh, that's how our brains work. So
100%.
Yeah. So thank you very much, everyone who's still here and watching. Make sure you go and subscribe to Rue. Her channel is Rue's Reading Corner, and like I said, if you're watching this like played back, then it'll be in the description. And yeah, so I hope you're all having good days.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. Forgot to say that. Yeah, it was really fun. So yeah, bye.
Bye everyone.